Hello and welcome to a very special broadcast where I'm joined by the one who needs no introduction across the globe. The one who recently made India proud at the 67th edition of Grammy Awards, and the one who leads the world of business being in top 50, the one for whom contributing to the society is a necessity. A very warm welcome to Ms. Chandrika Tandon, a globally recognized business leader, Grammy Award winning artist and humanitarian. Her stated mission is to elevate human happiness through music and education, and the Grammy is just another feather to her well-decorated hat. A very warm welcome and thank you so much for exclusively talking to DD India, ma'am.
I so appreciate it.
First of all, ma'am, many congratulations to you on winning the Grammy Award for Triveni. And this was your second nomination for the prestigious awards. Tell us about your inspiration for Triveni.
Triveni was the three different artists coming together from very different backgrounds, and all of us were individually focused on healing. One was in South Africa, Woda Kellerman, the flautist, and there was a cellist from Japan who lives in LA. And so the three of us came together to make music for healing and to make music that would foster wellness in people. And that was the genesis of Triveni, because all of us were very interested in this theme as to what the broader purpose of music was. And we brought our different traditions together, and I contributed the thought process of the mantras and the ragas in which the mantras were set. And so this was kind of my sort of part of the collaboration in this album.
Ma'am, when we talk about it, from Soul Call to Triveni, it's been a journey of heart and emotions, translating rather into a beautiful piece of art. Tell us about your musical journey from the beginning.
Well, about 20 some years ago, I went back to music because I had always sung when I was very little, and then I've had a very intensive business life, as you all know, and in that business life, it was very hard to pursue music in any important form. And I would basically listen to all kinds of Western music wherever in the world I was traveling. But then about 23 years ago, I went back to music in a very intensive way because all I wanted to do was to sing. Because I decided that the happiest moments of my life had to do with music. I wasn't trying to get anywhere. I wasn't trying to perform. I wasn't trying to sing for anyone. I wanted to sing for myself, but to sing at my highest possibility. And that's what made me go back to music. Now, as part of that, I made my first album, which was about chance, because I was trying to make an album for my father-in-law, who was in his 90s. What do you give somebody who's in their 90s, right? So I said, let me take an important mantra for him. Om Namah Shivaya, the 5-syllable Panchakshara mantra. And I decided to compose it in 8 ragas. And that was my first album, which kind of developed a cult following. And then my second album was Soul Call, which again came to me during an inspiration. Early in the morning, at 3 a.m. in the morning, I was woken up with this mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya. It's a mantra I don't really normally chant. It's not a mantra I was that familiar with, but somehow I was compelled to compose, and I was hearing all these beautiful tunes in my head. And that's how the genesis of Om Namo Narayana Soul Call happened, which got nominated for a Grammy, which was the most unexpected nomination you can ever see. And since then, I've continued to make albums. I've made 4 others, and Triveni is my 6th album.
When we talk about Triveni and your love for Vedas, you also come from a Tamil Brahmin family and from Chennai. Tell us about your love for Vedas specifically that drew you to create this beautiful Vedic chant that won accolades.
When I started going back to music, and when I started to work with all these great masters, and there were incredible masters that started to help me develop my musical skills and abilities, I wanted to learn soon, but I really wanted to learn the mantras and the shlokas, and I wanted to learn the incredible bhajans that were created by the great poets of India. This was my interest. I was never interested in learning the pure classical tradition, even though my masters would say to me, come learn the Vilambit and perform with me. I was interested more in the Kabir or in the Sanskrit mantras. So over the last 20 some years, I have been doing a lot of research, and also a lot of the gurus like Sri Ravi Shankar and the TM Foundation, they've all helped me think about the mantras in a very, very profound way. beginning to understand the higher purpose of the mantras, the higher meaning of the mantras. Because when we chant Om Namah Shivaya, it is not just a Namah Shivaya about a god. Namah Shivaya are 5 syllables that purify the body. Earth, water, fire, ether, and space. They purify the body. Continuous repetition purifies the body. That's why it's called the Panchabhuta, the Panchakshara mantra. And the same thing with Om Namo Narayanaya. That is the Ashtakshara mantra, which basically harmonizes the body as the cells are going through their regeneration processes. So our culture and our history is so full of such grand secrets that we really need to understand. And I know what kind of transformation these mantras and these traditions have made in me. And so my whole journey has been that of studying more and sharing more. And with children, which was what my last album was, and now with adults. My last album, Ammu's Treasures, was doing 21 of these mantras for young children. And starting with my grandson, who was a few months old when I started to sing these mantras to him.
It is so beautiful to know that you have such an in-depth knowledge about all these chants, about all these mantras, and you're spreading the word all across the globe. Now let's go back in the history. From being, trained to become a good homemaker, to fighting your mother for allowing you to pursue higher education, for which you once went on a hunger strike as well, if you're not wrong, and then becoming a McKinsey partner at a very young age, creating yet another record. Tell us how it was for you when you decided to move from India and decided to prove yourself to the global audiences.
You know, when I was growing up, I grew up with my grandfather, even though, we lived in my grandfather's house. And he was a very, very wise man. And we were in a very small house in Chennai with a very simple background. It was before the days of internet. It was before the days of everything. So my vision of the world was through books. I read hundreds of books a week. I read all 37 plays of Shakespeare. I read Thackeray. And so my world was so vast. It was so unbounded because of books. I hadn't traveled outside Chennai except to Bombay once or twice. But that was the extent of my opening. But in a sense, these books and my grandfather gave me this vision of unbounded boundlessness. And I think when that kind of has defined my life, and if I look back, of course, hindsight is 20/20, and it's a great thing. But really, that's what happened. That's why when I went on different journeys, each one was not about confining myself to any boundary. Whatever came to me. The other thing I will say is that in every stage, someone helped me. Many people helped me. I went on a hunger strike and went to Madras Christian College, which was my first big foray outside my house from Holy Angels Convent, really. Because Sister Mary Nesson, in her white habit, an Irish nun from the Franciscan Missionaries of Mary, left the college to come to my house to beg my mother to send me to this boys' college to do my BCom. That was what was the turning point. Otherwise, I would have still been probably on a hunger strike and then gone to do something else. And similarly, my professor Swaminathan, who was the head of the Department of Commerce, came to my mother again to persuade her to let me leave the house and go to IIM Ahmedabad when I was admitted there at age 18. I was one of the youngest people to go to business school. So I think this was all a whole group of mentors and teachers who took a great deal of interest in me. That's a great lesson for all of us as we look at young people, and for gratitude. I have immense gratitude for everybody that helped me along my way.
From that day, when you really got the news that you are now going to pursue your higher education because of so many people who played a very important role, to the day today when you received your Grammy Awards and the other work that you've been very prominently doing, how was it for you specifically when you got nominated for the Grammys for the first time and then won the ultimate trophy?
You know, when I was nominated for the first time, I didn't even really understand what the Grammys were. One of my teachers had said to me, "Oh, this album is so good, you should submit it for the Grammys." So I randomly submitted it. I didn't understand what the Grammy process was. And I've got to tell you it's sort of a strange story. When I was younger, I was crazy about all kinds of Western music, but one of my heroes was Sergio Mendes. He's a Brazilian artist, brilliant artist. And one of my great favorites was an album of his called Brazil 66. I listened to it 1,000 times, or more than 1,000 times, you know. So when I was nominated, when the 5 people were announced in my category, one of the people nominated was Sergio Mendes. So the excitement for me was, here I was the only unknown in that group because there were some extraordinary people, Sergio Mendes, Bella Fleck, you know, the world players that were nominated, and there was me, complete unknown, the first time, the oldest, youngest musician in a sense, nominated. So it was a shock, it was a happy shock, but I do know there was something magical that was happening with that album. Based on, Facebook had just come into play at that time, based on the thousands of messages. And in fact, if you go into my Facebook archives, those messages still exist, of stories of people talking about what this album did for them. And these were not Indians. Of course, a lot of people from India were following me. I mean, I had suddenly, from nothing, I had 80,000 followers on Facebook. And I didn't even know what, I just opened a Facebook account because it had its own momentum. People would write about how somebody had cancer, and in the last days of their life, the only music they wanted to listen to was Om Namo Narayana. Others would talk about how alcoholism was cured because of Om Namah Shivaya. They would find the earlier album. So there was a cult following. These mantras, it had nothing, I mean, it probably had something to do with the singing, but a lot of it is just the power of the words and the power of the resonance. So to me, essentially the album gave them an easy way and a musical way to recite these very, very powerful words, which have profound consequences for our body and our energy.
You also met Prime Minister Narendra Modi back in the year 2023, and indeed India now has a very different, special and respected space for women that inspires them to lead from the front, you being an example of it. Tell us about your experience meeting Prime Minister Modi in 2023.
Well, you know, he is the leader of one of the greatest democracies, and a country that I'm so proud to call my biological motherland. I mean, I'm so proud of being of Indian origin, and it was an honor to meet him, and I was so struck by how deeply engaged he was. When I met him, we were having an education discussion, because obviously I'm involved as a trustee of New York University. So we were there in a small group of educational people who were, and he was very passionate about trying to figure out how to further education and global partnerships with India. And that was his prime focus, and he was razor sharp in the way he questioned all of us, and how he had the follow-up after that, once he followed up with us. So it was a very beautiful, and I was struck by the incisiveness of his questions and the level to which he was so well informed about the issues. And so that was my interaction then. And this time around, it's a whole other thing. I haven't interacted with him, but I was so honored and touched that given everything that's going on in India, and given that he would take the time to write such a sort of a comprehensive tweet about me, and the fact remembered meeting me before. So I just thought it was a very gracious gesture. So I was touched and felt so proud.
Allow me to also tell you, ma'am, that India is celebrating this victory. It was really a moment of pride when we really heard that you won the Grammy Award. So when we talk about women empowerment, you represent the nation globally. And India is also now creating new record. How do you see this transformational journey of women in India across the years?
I'm going to say something which might be unpopular, but I want to tell you what I really think, which is, I don't really want to think of myself as a woman doing this. I want to think of myself as an artist, and I think I don't want to wear any labels. And this is something I've done my whole life, because I've always competed in a world who hadn't seen really a woman. There were very few women in my college. There were very few women in my business school. There were very few women in every sphere of life I've worked in. But I don't compete on the basis of being a woman. I compete on the basis of being a professional. I compete on the basis of being the best prepared person that's walked into a boardroom, or the best prepared artist that's done a lot of work to think about something. So while I'm so proud to be a woman, I'm so proud to represent women, but that's not the way I define myself. I define myself in terms of what I do. Because sometimes being a woman or being a woman of a certain kind starts to weaken you, because you start to say, hey, I'm not as powerful, and I don't want to wear any labels that weaken me. I want to start with a label that is about celebrating the power of what I do rather than what I am.
Also, now let's talk about the power of music and the importance of it. Music is indeed like a medicine to one's soul, and you just shared an example of it as well. Considering today's stressed working patterns and busy daily lives of a common man, how can music make one remain calm and mentally fit?
You know, I said this during my Grammy speech, and this reflects my philosophy of life. I said, music is love. Music ignites the light in all of us. And in our darkest days, music, gives us joy and laughter. I know music is shedding love, light, and laughter, and that's my mantra of life. In these days, we are all in a stage of anxiety, we are multitasking, we're all busy. Somehow the lives, I know, compared to where I was 40 years ago, I'm much, much busier than I was even then, and I was pretty busy before. I just think music simply allows you to reset your life and approach your whole life from a joyous perspective and from a perspective of light. And I think that automatically lightens your load. As they say, with a smile on your lips, it will lighten your trip as you sing your way home. There's an old English song that goes like that. So I think that's really what it is. So now, I'm not advocating that it should be one genre of music or the other. Different strokes for different folks. Some people like classical music, some people like raga, some people like Western music. It doesn't matter. It just helps to quiet your mind and get you to a more joyous place. And I wish all children, all grown-ups, everybody had access to music in whatever form. That parents would encourage their children to listen all the time. And sometimes even osmosis is a very big gift that you can give children even, and everyone. Because you don't understand, sometimes you just quiet down when you're having a stressful day, and suddenly a beautiful song is wafting, and something changes inside. The cells just start to be happier. So I'm of course focused on a particular genre of music, but I'm involved in multiple genres. I think it's a great natural resource and a great gift we have for free that's available in the world, and we should all take use of it.
Indeed, indeed. We should definitely make use of it. It really heals oneself as well. Now, music has been close to you since forever. And we also know that you memorized a lot of poems when you used to listen to them with your grandfather. Any lines of which you would like to share here today from any of the poems that you fondly remember?
I know so many poems. I know, everything from daffodils to, Robert Louis Stevenson to elegy written in a country churchyard. They would just be too many. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, and the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. And this goes on and on. There's many, many verses to this, but I have a vast trove of poems. In fact, I've set a lot of poems to music. Faster than fairies, faster than witches. I live by poetry. I live by music. I hear it. There's so much available to us, whether it's books or poetry, and the more we leverage that, the better. I was lucky that I had a grandfather that opened all these worlds to me. I'm so grateful.
Any line, anything that instantly uplifts your mood when you are really tired or when you are upset at times?
I basically, I use the very simple Sanskrit mantra, Purnamadha, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya, Purnamadhaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. Whenever I feel depleted in any way, I remember I am abundance, I am fullness, I am perfection, and since I'm connected to the great source, I can never be depleted. And once I remember that, my source gets refilled. And I have to repeat it a few times on bad days, and we all have bad days, but it's a tremendously powerful mantra that allows me to reconnect with my fullness. And I've really gone from a narrative of I'm a perfectionist who's not good enough, I need to get somewhere, to I am perfection. Purnamadha Purnamidham. I am abundance, I am fullness at this moment. And I think our tradition, the Vedic tradition, has given us this great gift of this mantra.
It is so heart-touching to see that you're taking the Vedic tradition of India to far greater heights when we talk about it has got no boundaries, and you're really taking it forward when we talk about it. Now, you're also committed to ensuring education for all. In 2015, you donated around $100 million to the New York University School of Engineering as well. What, exactly makes you deeply connected with the idea of ensuring education for all?
I'm committed to twin goals of economic empowerment and emotional empowerment. You can't really have one without the other. I think at the end of the day, all human beings need some steady source of income that will allow them to meet Maslow's basic hierarchy of food and sleep and shelter and all of that. And so to me, education is a surefire way to do that. Now, it's not NYU. We've invested in education in Madras Christian College, in many places, at Yale, at Harvard. I mean, I've lived in America for 47 years. So this is my home, and I've also invested in multiple institutions in India. So to me, education and economic empowerment, right now, particularly with STEM and technology taking over multiple spheres, I don't want people, especially young people, to become irrelevant in terms of their job prospects in the future. So it's very important for me to use whatever time, talent, and treasure we have into helping the world succeed. Because, we've had our run, and now it's time for us to really help others in whatever way we can. So that's one part of it. The second part of it is emotional empowerment through music and the arts and mental techniques, meditation, and all of that. Because I think the two need to go together. What's the point if you're secure and wealthy, but you're miserable all the time? You need both to live a complete life. So I think, to me, those two pillars are very important. So we're investing in both of those, both in India and in the US.
Not talking on a lighter note, we are thrilled to see your love for Indian wear. At the Grammys also, you very strongly represented India, and all across all the interviews, you've been representing India very beautifully and very gracefully, always making your mark and staying ahead. Tell us more about your love for the Indian attire.
The Indian attire is fantastic. To start with, the colors and the textures that we have in India are stunning. When I was in my early years, my daughter would say to me, she would look at my closet, and I would have all these Armani suits, and she'd say, "Mommy, all your clothes are black." Because I grew up conforming so much in my early years in the business world of just going for blacks and grays and dark colors, that in the last 25 years, as I'm finding the light, the love, light, laughter in me, I want to express myself with colors and the Indian traditions, the heritage, the crafts, the designers, they're spectacular. And I also love the fact that we have a lot of Western designers that are bringing together some of the Indian influences and the colors. So I use both.
Before we close, a very quick question on technology as well. Your thoughts on technology combined with ancient music, and also what is the best part about modern era and the worst part of it?
Well, see, when you combine technology and traditional music, what it allows you to do is to access a lot of the traditional some of these mantras and texts and so on are very hard to find, because in fact I found a lot of the research because of being able to have the internet and being able to have research capabilities. And more I think technology is going to allow us to disseminate, to search and disseminate some of these things which are fairly obscurely hidden, because you have to wait for the gurus to explain things to you. And I think now it's not just technology. The modern era needs ancient wisdom. And ancient wisdom is a very profound gift to the modern era. And the modern era has a lot of tools and techniques to unearth and disseminate the ancient wisdom. So I think that is the confluence that I hope will start to happen between these two eras, as you call them, coming together.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Chandrika Tandon, for joining us on this very exclusive broadcast and sharing your time and space with us. Very many congratulations to you for winning the Grammy Award once again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Deepika. I so enjoyed talking to you. Thank you.
And there you heard Ms. Chandrika Tandon sharing her experiences, her lighter moments and her journey exclusively on DD India. For more news and updates, keep watching DD India. Thank you so much. Namaskar.